Welcome back. In today's episode, we continue the interview with Keith Michelfelder, an investment advisor for high net worth individuals. In today's episode, we discuss what did the New York City cab driver do that you need to do? And what does this have to do with investing? Also, the importance of net weaving versus networking. Just as a reminder, the information contained herein is just for informational purposes only. We're not giving investment advice. Do your own research and devise your own strategies.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. You know, I know in your career and for your clients, you have epic successes, but I'm sure along the way you've had some epic failures. What's an epic failure that you can share that we can learn from?
Document. One of the biggest failure in my career was, and I don't want to. I got to be real careful what I say.
Don't get specific.
So you might have to cut that out.
In other words, can we sum this up? That
let me think about how I can say that without speaking to a couple of issues.
But it's documentation. Make sure you have everything in writing.
Not only that, but be a good record keeper. Yeah. Record your business. I think one of the lessons I taught myself, and this is something we can probably talk about.
You have an NDA, obviously, on this.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that specific. What I'm getting at is when people run their own business, or people are in a sales position, they fail to log what their progress is. It was very early in my career, and I was running late for work, and I had just gotten out of Penn Station. I was living on Long Island at the time, and the only way I was going to get to the office on time was to hop in a cab. And I hop in the cab, and we're flying down towards, at that time my office was on Wall Street. We're flying, and I get out of the car, and I pay the driver, and at this time you were still paying in cash, and I watch him write down physically where he picked me up, when he picked me up, when he dropped me off, what the fare was, what the tip was. And I think that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives you a chance to track back your day. If you feel like you didn't have a productive day, you can always look at your log. It gives you a chance to look back with hard data as to what worked and what didn't work. And I think even being that granular and looking and tracking what you're doing and documenting those things and logging is important because it's giving you data points over time that are invaluable, and it speaks to you. It's very specific to what you're doing, not what a book tells you to do or your boss tells you to do.
That's a great point, great story. And I bet if he actually logged also kind of what his attitude or what he was saying to his customers, he would actually find a correlation between his tip size and what his attitude was.
That's great. I'm going to start doing that as well.
Really, I mean,
great.
If I'm happy and excited and I'm making you feel good as my customer, are you more apt to leave me a bigger tip? I know I am when I go into a restaurant.
Yeah, that's important, and people can do that on all different levels. You can do that as a cab driver, as a person who works the front of a house at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Take that time out to figure out why that worked. It's not luck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We all have to make decisions with limited data, and this is something I ask all the entrepreneurs that come on the show. And I want you to think back to a time where you needed to make a decision, you had limited data, and you didn't know which way to go. Now, you've got to do that every single day. As you're making investment choices, you only have so much data to go by. You have no idea what the future is going to hold for this. How do you make those decisions?
Twofold. If we really feel uncomfortable making a decision or I feel I don't have enough data, the best decisions made sometimes are the decisions that you don't make. They have a saying in baseball, sometimes the best trades that you make are the ones that you don't. And that works with everything. The other is go back to your 3 C's. Go back to your cost, go back to your control, and go back to your comfortability. What is this going to cost me if I choose unwisely? What can I control? How can I get out? What's my control? And cost control and I keep and am I comfortable with the outcomes. And that's, at that point, you have an overarching mantra that you can work decisions based on maybe not the best data points. I wouldn't suggest doing that, but maybe not on the best data points.
And one thing that I always consider too when making investments is, what is my exit strategy, not only for what I'm trying to accomplish, but what is my ability to get out of this tomorrow? Am I locked up into it? Private equity deals are going to lock you in for a period of 7 to 10 years. What is your liquidity? How liquid is it?
Yes, I mean that falls under comfortability and control.
Awesome. I want to touch on this because you and I have had many discussions along different investment ideas, and you're constant. What I love about you is you're constantly coming up with ideas outside the box. People think of investment, it's like, okay, I can buy a bond, I can buy a stock, buy a mutual fund, or I can put it in a money market. And there's about 8,000 other things I feel that you come up with, from private placements to private equity. We're not giving investment advice. We're not telling you what to do. I want to talk about some of the investment ideas that are out there. They may not be right. They're not right for everybody, but give the audience just some ideas of some of the things that people can invest in that they can research and find their own information on.
Can't answer that one. I can't.
Okay.
You're gonna get me in trouble with that.
No, then don't answer.
But what I can say is this: when you're considering making an investment, these are the important, and these 3 C's are going to be hammered in everyone's noggin when we're done with this interview. Ask yourself first, what am I trying to accomplish? All right. Mm-hmm. So the way we come up with some of those out of the box ideas that you had referenced earlier, they're client born. That's born from the client. I don't like to use the word solution because that means the client had a problem. The client had a question. They wanted to accomplish something. Or they wanted to accomplish a goal. Something occurred to them. And then we go to work attempting to find the strategy that may help them meet that desire. So I can talk a little bit about this because it is specific and it has hit the business wire. Everybody knows the Saudi Kingdom. Kingdom Investments. The man who runs Kingdom Investments is the largest individual shareholder of Citigroup. He desired to own late-stage unicorn companies. And what I mean by that are companies that we use every day in our technology, that are close to going public, that are close to doing an initial public offering, that haven't quite gotten there yet. So some specifics would be Lyft, Uber, Airbnb, Spotify, investments of that nature. We tend to call those unicorns. He actually was on CNBC and made a plea on unicorns. Now you'd wonder, well, why can't the largest shareholder of Citi go to his investment banking team and say, go find me these investments? Well, he did. The problem was one of his C's was out of whack. That was cost. Company we work for currently, which is Forte Capital Management, was able to meet the cost demand, the comfortability demand. And the Kingdom, after about a year of negotiations, Kingdom Investments, which is one of the largest self-run funds in the world, made a $125 million investment in Lyft through Forte Capital and not through Citi.
So they did it through you guys and not Citi because he wasn't offering enough through Citi?
I'm wondering if I have the legal.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll just go back to meeting the three C's. Meeting cost.
Meeting cost.
They were able to meet a better cost. So that's important when you're entering an investment. If you're buying a house, right, the first thing you look at is cost. So when you're looking at any investment, and this is true, when the first thing you look at is cost, not just what the shares cost or what the house costs. It's what is going to be the cost to my real estate agent. How much am I going to have to pay in improvements on this home? Same thing with investment strategy.
And I don't know who said this. I don't know if this is a Buffett quote or not, but the money is made not at the sale, but at the buy. You make your money in an investment at the price you buy it, not what you sell it.
That makes some sense, yes.
Meaning if you don't buy an investment at the right price, at a low enough price, your exit is going to be the exit. You make your money by being able to buy those assets at a lower price point.
Opportunity is always going to speak to what the return on investment is.
Yeah.
Okay. But not all of us have a crystal ball. I really wish
sure.
I did. So you really don't know what the top or the bottom of a market's going to look like. What you do know and you have control over are those three important factors. It's that cost, that comfortability, and that control. How liquid is it? How much can I control it? What are the internal costs that might drive the nominal cost up?
Who do you admire in the investment world?
I admire you, Thor.
You heard it right here. It'll be on the internet, so you know it's true.
You know, I think it's interesting. Tony Robbins, who you wouldn't think would be a traditional, asset manager person. Okay, so when people think of Tony Robbins, they think of folks walking over coals. They think of self-help. They think of self-motivation. They don't think of asset management. And when he made that move, he made a very public move into the world of asset management. I'll be honest, privately, a lot of us giggled. He just put out a book. It's fairly recent called Money. And I picked it up expecting that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get such a kick out of this book. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. He was able to locate some of the biggest problems that individual investors have, where no matter where their level is, if they're a novice or if they're an expert, he was able to quickly and succinctly identify those problems, address them, and he's actually, I don't know if he's directly come to the marketplace, but through some third-party asset managers who use that style, they've been wildly successful. And part of it, I believed immediately, just as a investment mantra that he hit on for me. But some of the other things I didn't realize. So Tony Robbins would really be one of them. I admire him immensely. From a field of management standpoint, I really look up to some sports figures, okay? And not in a traditional way. If you, especially here in Atlanta, if you go out to a bar or pub on a Saturday, okay, or now it being playoff time, you'll hear the fans criticize the players. Why didn't they run that out? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And what they don't realize is if they would have applied the same expectations that they have of these 18 to 22-year-old kids in college who are playing football, or these kids realistically are under 35 who are playing at the highest level of sports, if they were able to apply those expectations to their own lives, okay, and that preparation, they'd be doing much better. So I admire almost all sports figures for the amount of preparation that they need to go through and the mental toughness that they need to have from outside criticism, which is rarely warranted.
Yeah, it's funny with criticism. People are very quick. Some people are very quick to criticize, and I don't think I've ever been criticized by anyone that is doing better than me financially or physically or in any area of my life. The criticism always comes from people that are not doing as well as you, which is really interesting.
There should be a new saying that shit rolls uphill. Yeah, the people who are doing tend to be the people who want to lend a lending hand.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, go for it. Yeah, keep going.
Whatever you need. I got a lot of whatever you need from people. Whatever you need.
Yep.
And I don't know where that's born from. Part of it is you want to help somebody, you feel obligated to it, but there's a sense of community and duty that comes naturally to when you're doing well to help someone who's not, because you've made those errors in your life too.
Oh yeah, and just do it because you want to do it. You want to help somebody.
It should come naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared a story here. Someone wrote me a 6-figure check one day just for helping out and just suggesting something. 6-figure check.
Would they like to write me a check too?
I'll have to give them a call. But the point was, I wasn't looking to get anything. I was just trying to help two people out that I consider friends, and I introduced them, and that was it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to make those introductions in life. That's for everybody. It doesn't have to be salt goes with pepper type of introduction. I've created by accident. I can get into some specifics here, and this is actually had a little bit to do with you. You introduced me to a couple of folks that run a parallel business to what we do over at Forte, and there wasn't an exact match. However, in talking to these people, they were able to help me, and I was able to help them meet a goal, and no money exchanged hands between me, you, or that third party, but everyone made out. Everyone had a good feel-good story. The monetary win happened like a tertiary derivative of what we were looking to set up. But those will be referrals and network for life. So don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, don't go in trying to figure out what you can get from it. Just go in, give. Some will take advantage of it. Some will come back in multiples years later.
You'll learn about me that I like things like the three C's. I like catchphrases because they tend to stick with people. But net weave, don't network. Weave it together.
Weave it together. I like that. I'm going to steal that. Stolen. Mine. What do you wish you had started earlier?
Puberty. I really don't know. Let me think on that for a minute.
So then let me ask you this. What did you do okay 10 years ago? But today you actually do it quite well.
I'm going to go back to that networking, net weaving concept. 10 years ago, I have a big personality. So networking was something that kind of came easy to me, but I couldn't figure out why it wasn't effective. And what I learned, moving to Atlanta, and then I learned this from a number of different places and folks who are, you would consider great networkers, and they wouldn't consider themselves great networkers. It was that weaving idea. Instead of going into a networking event, which I have a rule on that too, instead of going to a networking event with the idea of a WIFM, what's in it for me, go in with an open mind and figure out what you can do to help the person across from you first without thinking there'll be any reciprocity. And that's really worked for me. That's gotten me into some places and in front of some clients that I never would have been able to reach before.
So I got to ask, what's the rule?
Oh, okay. Networking is done in the morning. Networking is done over coffee. Net weaving is done over coffee. Happy hours are done over alcohol.
Ah, very good.
Don't have more than, I don't care what the other person's doing. Don't have more than one drink.
Yeah.
And if you're going to make a commitment, let's say you're doing what are some of the big ones down here? Power Core or BNI. Okay. If you'll notice, those meet in the mornings. Those meet at 7 a.m. because people don't have to, I'm a single guy. If I'm going out for a drink, I'm not going out for business. I'm going out to unwind.
Well, maybe not financial business. Single guy.
Plead the fifth.
All right, I have to ask this. I don't know what you're going to answer, but I don't even know if there is one. What's your biggest weakness?
I have a couple. I'm really working hard to address them. One we found out today. The clock is my enemy. When this is something I found out, and it probably works with everybody. When I was a commuter and I had to work off a commuter train, I was never late for anything because had I missed that Long Island Railroad to get into work, I'm 40 minutes late.
Wait, I was a commuter too. You're telling me that you've never run after the train?
Oh, I have.
Yeah, of course.
I have. But you try not to have those experiences, especially when it's freezing out. You're running after your New Jersey Transit or you're dashing after the Long Island Railroad.
And they come up with those doors now that actually close.
Yes. I can't tell you how many times I'd stuck my briefcase or arm into the middle of it. But as I've become less and less of a commuter, when I was working in Manhattan, I always lived close to the office. And, now I live about 20 minutes away by car. You tend to give up those 2 minutes here. I'll read this one more article. Oh, let me just see what they say on Sports Center as you're getting ready. And those times tend to compound. And what used to be a 2-minute late can also become a 15-minute late. So ever since I was born, I was 3 weeks late to come out of my mother. I haven't been on time really since. So I've in 41 years, I've really got to work on being on time. I do have a rule for that too.
You got a lot of rules.
Well, you should. I mean, you should have a code of how you handle and conduct yourself.
I agree.
And you should not deviate from that.
I just call them standards because I don't like rules.
I love rules. Standards is probably a better way to put it. If you're going to be more than 10 minutes late, this is something my grandmother taught me. It's a big influence in my life. If you're going to be more than 10 minutes late, you need to make the phone call. You need to let someone know.
It should be like a bottle of wine. And I think you were 11 minutes late for this show today. So
I did call you though.
Oh, okay. But he didn't bring a bottle of wine.
It's too early.
That's my standard.
This isn't Catholic Church. It's a little too early to be having wine in the morning.
You have sinned, my son.
So yeah, that's something that I can really work on. Is being punctual, because being punctual it's rude if you're not punctual. You're using somebody else's time.
You know, I heard something very interesting. I don't know if this is true. I was at an event recently, and it was over Yom Kippur, and the gentleman was saying you're either early, and I believe this, you're either early or late. There is no on time, because on time is that fraction of a second at the time of the clock where you said you were going to be. So you're either going to be early or late. And the woman in the audience, who is also Jewish, said that that's one of the unforgivable sins in the Jewish religion. And again, I don't know if this is true or not, because it's something that you can't give back to the other person. You can't make it right. You can't give them that time back, which I thought was really interesting.
That's a really good point. It's and like I said, it's a habit that I really want to break, because you're using somebody else's life on this planet. You can't. You're burning some of their time savings.
We will punish you accordingly.
Well, I've gotten punished accordingly with that. I mean, I've there's a girl in my life, a woman in my life, and I, through no fault of my own this time, which is a rarity, because I'll own it when it's my fault.
But I
through no fault of my own,
hear this one.
I was 30 minutes late to an event, and she had already called an Uber and was leaving.
Oh,
she was meeting me there. I did, thankfully, because she's wonderful. I talked her into staying, but I couldn't blame her. I didn't even fight it back.
Called an Uber to leave.
She called an Uber to leave.
Oh.
I would, had she had left and never spoken to me again. This was very early, it's still very early. I wouldn't have blamed her, because it was, that's something that you just cannot give back to someone, so you can't make right. I agree with that Jewish lady in the audience.
All right, there you go.
And maybe Wendy got a public apology in front of 68 countries.
Wow, Wendy, that's pretty good. Every peak performer that has ever lived or will live does one thing extremely well. They know how to take their ideas and execute on them. Ideas and knowledge are not power, but the ability to execute on them, that is real power. If you consider yourself a peak performer and really want to take your game to the next level and truly master the science of execution, I would like to send you some information about our upcoming event, Business Execution Summit. Simply take your phone and text the word BESUMMIT, one word, to 41411. And I'll send you some additional information on how to master the most important skill you will ever acquire for your life or your business. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day. That concludes part 2 of our interview with Keith Michelfelder. Please stay tuned later this week for the conclusion.